Thank you very much for the invitation, and so thank you to everybody who managed these things for the lecture to start on time. Later I changed. So I changed the title of my lecture because I didn't know what the other lecturers will be speaking about. I thought that I would be in a difficult position because the previous lecturer I have known for quite a long time. We were soldiers, we were in the army together. Somehow it also defined or projected the line of our career. So we spent 11 months in the army together. And I expected that the lecture will be an excellent one. And after this, it is difficult to just say a word. So what do historical towns and main streets suffer from? And I thought that on the 50th anniversary of a program like the Summer University it is not just about the renovation of historical towns, the cities of historical towns, but more, or rather, as an urbanist, as an architect who became urban planner. Many people were admitted to the university then. And when we selected a department, they were admitted, but I wasn't. And it lasted for 6 years after I received my diploma, but since then I've been enthusiastically dealing with urban planning. In the past 15 years, when I was leading the operative management of the urbanist organization, I got into connection with these colleagues. So look at this. Look at me as an outsider who wants to get closer, but we don't know, I don't know how you are placed in your own profession. I thought this is a good opportunity to talk about present and past. I'm not that intelligent and modest. I will brave to make a proposal about the directions of the forthcoming 50 years. As an urban planner, for me, 50 years is not a too long period. So I try to bring a couple of interesting things for you. So why is a jumping board, a diving board for a town, this city? The most important part for the people of a town is the city. So it is not. Some people say that the center system is a stupid thing, but there are networks there. But we cannot neglect the city center because this is that the people who live there always and always use. That is church, the pub, the council. Everything can be found in the city center. I put Ongjerth here in this photo. You can see the church and the mayor's office next to each other. I wanted to say that I was born in Eger and I lived there for a long time. This Dobo statue is the significant element of the historical city center for me, and it still is. This is a childhood memory. And these things define our approach to the world. But at the same time, historical city centers are old and beautiful. We are proud of them. It forms your identity. So we don't only use it for functional reasons, but we like to go there, like walking there, we like being there. So if we make changes there, pleasant changes, then these changes will be liked by the people. So I thought that monument protection for the profession is an interesting space. I mean, the city center. Monument protection and how we manage our heritage. I would like to say a few words about that. We are saying in Hungarian heritage protection, heritage management. I wanted to translate this word in 2012. When I was asked to give my opinion about that. So it's not just so it was not just translated incorrectly, as Fejéri Tamás said yesterday, but management was translated in a wrong way into Hungarian. But this is not the treatment with heritage or monument protection. And it occurs in every document, unfortunately. I think that how we economize with our heritage, how we use it, monument protection is an important but small part of it. This needs the knowledge and methods of monument protection. Yesterday we were speaking about someone who had a different opinion, David Strommelt. He managed the Tokaj World Heritage Site earlier. He has an economist degree. The Cultural Heritage Protection Office was an interesting example how you can approach this area, this field. Our heritage is worth something if we inherit it from our grandparents, if the value is known by everybody and accepted by everybody. And the other thing is how we can use our heritage. When my grandma died, then one of my sisters took half of her furniture, and the other sister took the other half. I only inherited the photos and the documents. This is how it occurred. But it is important how emotionally we are connected to our heritage. Obviously, for my sisters, it was more important to have this furniture than buying anything in a second-hand shop. If we emotionally connect to our heritage, that is more important for us. I put a couple of partner professions here, like real estate management, tourism, and other things. In the physical part of management, it is important to find out the intentions and to find how we want to use our heritage. The things that Mishi told us, of course, it is important that Mishi told us about, but we have to accept that the profit is important in the society. Well, unfortunately, our children or my children or grandchildren won't know the documents or the people in the photo if they don't have a look every day, or if it is not part of their life, and that concerns everything. If we like something, we consider it important. If we consider something important, we do care about them. A profession cannot sustain if the people don't know what these professionals do. Very few people know what urban planners do or what their job is about. Many people will think that they just pose a threat to society. If monument protection cannot find its place in the changes, during the changes of the society, then unfortunately it will be lost, or will lose a lot of its significance. Just a few more things to this, how emotion and ratio is related to each other. I've been teaching economists for 15 years at the Technical University, and they are driven by logics. Daniel Kahneman got an economic Nobel Prize in 2002. He is a psychologist. He said that the decisions needing logics, we rely on our intuitions and emotional impressions. Our brain works the way that we try to do things which we can do fast, and it is based on emotion. And there are many people who don't like mathematics because it needs time to solve the problems there. Even if we speak about a big company, when they buy vehicles, there are a lot of emotional decisions, and it works the same way in urban planning as well. If we cannot affect the emotions, if we cannot make public the World Heritage work or the monument protection work for the public, so that they could understand what it is about, either with promotion or PR tools, we should extend the tools of heritage management, which includes considering social or public points of view as well. We will need a prestige. We will achieve a prestige. Yesterday's 2 afternoon lectures were a very pleasant surprise for me. I'm quoting here a interview. This Michel Polj architect was working in Budapest as well, and he reminds me of the way of thinking, what I heard about in yesterday's lectures. Adding that there was no, in 2008, there was no ruin pub quarter in the center of Budapest. In 2013, this ruin pub quarter idea came into fashion. We would like to say in Hungary that the law rules. There are many public servants who say that we only follow the public law. But they use it indifferently. If it is good, then I need support. If it is bad, then we will destroy it. The local will is always very important. As Michel Polj says, it is always the most important that the districts, for example in Budapest, must have their own will. Local government, it is kind of a common thing in Hungary that the local governments don't speak to the public, though they declare that they do, and it is their job. They have hours when they could receive the public, but basically they don't talk to their own people who live in the districts, for example. As far as I can remember, in the World Heritage Convention, there is a point about this, that whatever changes are made, they have to include or involve the public as well. I'm not an expert on this, but I don't know if it happens this way in Hungary. Somehow it is not in the public awareness. What do historical main streets suffer from? I think because they suffer because there is a lot of traffic on the main streets. In other developed cities, cars have already been banned from the city centers. There are investments, constructions which destroy values. Everybody speaks about fitting. About 10 years ago, there was a Zeppelin project in Hungary. I was interested in it. I want to study the events connected to my job. The Architects Society is about two things. That for this project 5 monuments have to be pulled down. But on the different internet forums said that they want to pull down Gulyás Keffi's house. He was an excellent architect in the 1980s. He left very good houses behind him. In Bécsi Street there was an OTP bank. That was one thing that they wanted to pull down. A high-rise didn't fit into this milieu in that part of the town. So when these high-rises were built, they absolutely didn't fit in the environment, the built environment, but at that time it was accepted. So there is a lack of raising awareness. In a wider circle, the people should be made aware why we are very good, and not necessarily us, but what we do for them. This part of it is called elitism. Sometimes you don't only want to meet the demands of the public taste. You cannot educate approach. At a university, you have to teach the profession, and the approach has to be put over it, on it. We cannot teach approach. At the university, the two students have to be taught how to build the house, and not the approach. There is basic knowledge that the architects have to learn, but about 10 years ago I saw with some other planners, that was settlement planners, that was a starting job or starting profession at that time. It turned out that the knowledge of the profession wasn't given over to the students, unfortunately. So they should have told the students what to do with a city center, for example. About 11, 12 years ago, there was an EU project where a lot of institutions were involved, which was to set up a inventory of heritage values. We were asked to make a communication plan. And we built up a system, a application system, how the inventory of the evaluations should be made public. It was a series of events for local organizations. Local governments were asked to make a strategy out of this, and they could use it for an application. They were told to make a short video to show their place and to show what they want to achieve. There was a communication group as well in the institution, so that many people know about these things. We had to get into the commercial television. If it is something that could be broadcast, for example, as public service, then they could also put it into main broadcast time, not just at night, for example. So if there are celebrities in these short videos that the different settlements make of themselves, then they could be showed in main time as well. I had different remarks about my plan, about this plan of mine that is putting celebrities into the videos about the small settlements. And many of the remarks were rather bad. Why you want to put us into such awful programs as talk shows and everything? And I tried to explain to them that the simple people watch these programs, everybody, a lot of people. So we can change these celebrities into other public figures, but then Duna TV, Danube Television. There will be a history teacher, will explain you what the city center of Ózd has, what kind of values it has, but nobody will watch these programs, or just very few. So you can see how many different problems our profession has, how to approach our mission and our role in this profession. So where is the solution? The pictures are not from Budapest, but from Vienna. It is a shopping center. Actually, the city centers have to compete with the shopping centers. The shopping centers offer good conditions for the people. There is quiet, safety, pleasant environment. They can find what they want. Of course, many people hate shopping centers, but the actual city center is beautiful, it's free, there is no roof about you, but you can find everything that you need, that you want to buy or want to use. So what belongs to this? This built environment differs from the others. So what is important for operating a city center well? It needs a lot of things, like what kind of shops there are, how they are opened, if there is safety, security in the street, and how it is promoted, what kind of PR tools are used to promote this. This last thing, written in red, which lacks in Hungary, that is a well-prepared management of the shopping street. There is no such thing in Hungary. In a shopping center or in a city center, there cannot be graffitis. Their job is very serious, but how the products are changed in the shops, it also belongs to the management. Probably they manage 72 cities in Vienna. In every street there is a management like that, either at the local government or at the commercial chamber of the city. I have two good examples. One of my good example is, my favorite example is Bamberg. About 10 years ago I went there for the first time. It has 75,000 inhabitants. It's an archiepiscopal center. It's very similar to Eger. The historical city center is an unheard place. Since 1993, it's been a World Heritage Site. There is a buffer zone of more than 400 hectares around it, and there are 1,200 historical monument buildings there. This is the Bamberg Dome Cathedral. It is one of the 4 emperor's domes. Many people know about the Bamberg statue, a bronze statue of a horse rider. It shows Stephen I, our king. The particularity of the place is that from the end of the 50s, they are very much aware, they have been very much aware of how they develop their environment. The Bomberg model means that the private monument, historical monument owners are involved in the protection and in the maintenance as well. Fortunately, they remained for us during the World Wars as well. The private owners were supported with finances and advice as well. So the roof structure and the facade, which the people can see outside, and if the owners, the private owners, renovated these things, then they received a 100 or 5,000 euro support, financial support, the maximum of 15% of the whole cost. So in the 1950s, probably they were also poorer a bit, but so it is something that is not a huge amount of money at that time or today either. But the most important point is that they receive the support, that the local government cares about it. The local government wants to support the private owners as well. In Budakeszi, for example, included in the local heritage protection law, I worked for them for 15 years. So they paid 50,000 for the renovation of a protected building, with the restriction that they had to leave the facade untouched. Of course, they were not poor people, but it was just a symbol, a symbolic amount. There are restrictions, but the local government tries to help and encourage the local owners so that they do care about their historical monument property. So there were a couple of debates that how far the facade takes. But fortunately, the street view was kept. In 1993, the Bamberg city center became a World Heritage Site in Cartagena. The Middle Age and Baroque view of Bamberg became protected or a World Heritage Site. I translated it from German, and the word says the property management. They created a Bamberg World Heritage Site. They coordinate the maintenance of the physical reality of the heritage, but also they do care about the buffer zone, how it is managed. This flag, 15 years ago, I had an adventure. I went to Geneva. There were big molinos across the streets, and they said that World Heritage starts here. And you could see it in every street, so everybody knew where they were going to. I liked it a lot, and I told about my experience to my colleagues. That I found it a very good idea. It wouldn't cost that much. It would be easily put up, and we would achieve results easily. And then I was told that we should do something more appropriate, like a bronze table on the wall. So since then, there have never been molinos that I suggested. So bird heritage signs can only be found in 6 places in Budapest. Along the Danube bank, near the promenade, there is a bronze plaque or a bronze table that that says World Heritage Site starts here. In 2003, they created a Built Heritage Foundation in Bamberg, which extended the Bamberg model. It is interesting to see that there is a group of people, influential people, who take part in the work. He's the chairman, and there are influential retired politicians there in this group as well. They are lobbyists, but the operational tools are in the hands of the mayor. This is a 2-level leading system. Politicians are involved in the management, but it means that politicians from every side, from the right and from the left, are involved, so it makes decision-making easier. And these influential elderly people help raise the funds, the financial funds for the operation of the foundation. Local businessmen donate money to the foundation. They carry out a very good communication and PR. They have a homepage. They have popular programs for the people. In 2004 and 2005, they initiated a fitness program in the city center. But actually it was not just a sport program, but that was a time when they started to talk to start conversation with the local restaurant owners and shop owners. They wanted to involve them in the operation as well. So they wanted to find some trendy word for it. That's why it is called fitness. This is the new management plan from 2019. It is a perfect strategic plan. There is hardly any word about restoration, the parts of restoration, and about history. It is about what they have to do. There were 5 work groups there, teams. There was monument protection is there as well in the team, of course. In the strategic plan, they had a leading plan, the aims, the targets that they wanted to achieve, the tasks that they had to do, and the smaller steps, of course. It was a 1.5 year long work. The restaurant owner put out, for example, the potted plants outside the restaurants, which was also included in the plan. So they didn't make the plan for the drawer, but for the public, for the reality. This is even today they have a very living and very popular city center. I thought about it for quite a long time, what the other example should be, and I thought I would choose a Hungarian example. I have chosen Pannonhalma, and I chose it for 2 reasons. So in Budapest, for example, well, now I can only say that there is no it is not well managed in Budapest, but in Pannonhalma, even if it is not a real city center, but it can be a good example in Hungarian or under Hungarian conditions. Since 1996, they've been operating on the same place. The Tatars couldn't take it. The Turks could. Joseph II dissolved the order. Practically, you can study here different eras of architecture in history, from the Roman times, Gothic times, Baroque times, Classicist times, modern times, everything. A growing tourism is connected to the place. At that time when I got there were about 50,000 tourists, visitors a year. Now there are 180,000 visitors a year. Astrik Várszegi had an aim to separate the life of the Oder and tourism. But they still wanted to have tourism there because for financial reasons it is an important thing. They created a visiting order that the tourists can come to this lift and they will be shown around in the abbey, and they walk around. They can see the library and the church as well, but they will leave the building at another place where there is a visitor center, a bus parking place, car parking place, and everything. Together with the fact that the renovation and the restoration of the basilica would deserve a conference of its own, there are very few people who could do the same that happened in the abbey. The Storno was put out of the basilica, but they managed it. Is the order, the Benedict order, could do it. They stress the respect of tradition. There is everything there. They build their brand very well in the village. Actually, it has been a town for about 40 years. Hotel development was carried out as well. They lobbied very well, so they received government funds, there's government finances as well. A Pannonhalma visit looks like this, that the bus goes up to the castle, visitors get off the bus, and after the visit they get on the bus and they go on to Győr, for example. From the Middle Ages, these people, the farm workers, lived down in the village. So it meant that the local people and the people in the abbey as well didn't like each other, so to say, hated each other because the money landed at the abbey. And in the socialist regime, during the socialist regime, the people in the village lived very poorly. So at that time there was no cooperation between the two parts of the settlement. Aszék Várszaki was invited to a program in Somogyvár, and he said, that how good it is for you that there is no Benedictine abbey in Somogyvár, but it was him, the head of the Benedict order in Pannonhalma, who said that. This is Tamás Kovács. He was the project manager and he did his job pretty well. They started to build a brand of themselves. They started to think what they should do to receive tourists, not only the exhaust fumes of the cars. They started a Pannonhalma campus institution, which was sort of a summer university, a one-week program. They brought students to the place so that they could think over or find out something what they should do with Pannonhalma, the village itself. This is the new mayor of the place, Gábor Vas. They started to reconstruct the farm building. It is a bit controversial because in 2019 a new management plan was made for the heritage protection, monument protection. In this material there was no participation. Out of the buffer zone, but in the protected area, outside the buffer zone, there will be the new hotel of the Abbey next to this building. It is in the plan, but nothing that doesn't belong to the Abbey is, they say about this, that they have to start discussions about that. But they didn't sit down to start the discussions. But as opposed to Bamberg, we put the things into the plan, those things that we cannot solve or haven't been able to solve so far. So the future of monument protection is defined by the public support of the profession. So we have to go down to, in public levels, we have to go down to the society levels, to the simple people, to get them understand what our profession is about. As soon as possible, the state should be excluded from this profession, because if we only depend on one person or on one decision body, then we won't be able to achieve results. Just a few days ago, I heard a interview from Orbán Viktor, Prime Minister, that was about the Fudan University. So I said, he said that he said something to a ministry official, so that the university has to be beautiful and it must have a soul. This is not a specific Hungarian thing, it's a world phenomenon, that there is a decentralization of the profession. In Bamberg, for example, they have already made the third management plan, strategic plan, but in Budapest none has been made. If there is a master or some sort of owner of the historical monument who can be found locally, then it will be effective. Our profession should collect more and more partners so that we could create the environment in which we can work well, we can operate well. We don't have to deal with anything else, but we have to deal only with the things that we are professionals of. As soon as possible, management heritage should be taught at the universities. David Strommert was an excellent example for me. There are different educational types into which heritage management could be involved. So that was a personal story about a colleague who was debated, whose presence was debated in the office. He was a geography teacher, but the other people debated why he is there in the Monument Protection Office. So a professional direction could be, the direction of our profession can also be involved in many, many different university educations. The historic city centers could prove an excellent practicing place for the students who learn about this profession. So my suggestion is for you that we have to deal with city center issues, definitely. I'm closing my presentations with this photo, not just because I like this photo and like this place. I come from Eger, as you remember, and I would like you to have just as many people as he had during the fight with the Turks.